Welcome back to Stationeers. Today we're going to be sort of improving our arc furnace setup. And yes, just a brief note, if like me you play, for a few hours and then press escape, go to exit to desktop and mean to hit save and accidentally hit exit, well, you have to spend a good hour rebuilding things. So yes, I've rebuilt this. This wasn't safe from last episode, because you can see there's no furnace at that end of things, but I wanted to improve things today. So we're going to be improving things with our arc furnace setup. So in there, I've just got our active vent on all the time. We can shut the whole building down, of course, with this transformer, so it's no big deal. And I've got a nice, little bit more nicely laid out sort of chute bin here and cable, etc. So today we're going to be automating this a little bit more, and I want to discuss that in a few different ways. So to automate arc furnaces, you have a few options. The simplest option available, and this is the one that will work sort of, and I mean I do mean sort of in a very vague sense, is that if you, for example, well, let me just show you what we can actually read. So let's just turn this around, choose two logic readers. Okay, and we'll just grab our screwdriver and you'll see what I mean. So if I read the arc furnace, I can read a few different slots. So there is lock, there's error, there's required power. Yeah, in fact, hang on. Is that? No, that's the chute bin. Arc furnace. Okay, so lock, import count, idle, export count, and activate. Required power, recipe hash, reagents, etc. Okay. So the problem with all of this is that, well, no, in fact, let's get to actually just doing it like this first, and I'll come into the problem in a second. So let's just read on both of them, the import slot and the export slot. So if I just turn them on, okay, so you'll see import count 3, export count 2. Okay, is that because there is something jammed in there? There probably is. Let me just grab something. In fact, yeah, let me actually just put this down. I think there is something jammed because in previous testing, I jammed it on purpose. So let's just go on to the next piece from that. So we are able to read what's in the import slot and what's in the export slot. Okay, and you'll see I've got a couple of pieces of copper here. So we're going to need to do that. Oh, I need to get that back. Let's play football with things. So we're going to compare these two things. So that's the easiest thing to try. Compare. And we're going to compare not equals each other. Turn that on. Oops, in fact, no, we just configure it first. So I need to just, first of all, just relabel these. So if that is my import slot, furnace import, and this is my furnace export, I think that's the right way around. Arc furnace export, yes, that's correct. Then I just need to basically see, are they furnace import, furnace export, are they not equal to each other? Is there something in the import slot but not in the export slot, etc. Although these are going to give an import count, so it's not quite the same. But it doesn't really much matter unless they're identical. So we just turn it on and you'll see it says 1. Yeah, they're not equal. So we need to do something with them. So you might think, well, the next thing you can actually do, I guess, is just pick up this and do a writer. So if I get a writer, logic writer, I rotate it, I can read that compare, I can output to the arc furnace, and I can output the activate slot. Okay, so if I turn this on, you'll see it activates. And that will not take very long because I didn't really load it with too many ingredients. Okay, it's turned off, and you see something gets ejected. Fine. So that looks like it's entirely automatic. So now the import count says it's like a status code 3, basically. So is there something in there? There isn't anything in either one of those. All right, so you're thinking, well, this is fine. So what's the problem? The problem is this. Watch. If I go and take a piece of copper and push it in, and I go and put another piece of copper and push that in, the first one is going to go in, and the whole thing is going to activate. Uh-oh. That's one copper popped out. Yep, right there. But I put 2 pieces of copper in. What's happened to the other one? What's happened is it's jammed because the system is telling us, yes, that should be activated. but the writer is activating, well, it is basically set to 1 all the time. It's a button, so it's like someone's holding down the button, and it basically isn't reactivating when that happens. So that's a simple setup, and if you're only doing 1 stack at a time, it would work really perfectly. The fact that I probably want to jam this thing with, well, basically more than 1 stack and have it process its way through, yeah, that's not quite so good. So, I mean, if I just turn this off and back on, will it actually just do that? No. How about if I just change this between not equals and equals? It probably will work then. So, so if I do equals, not equals. Yep, there you see, it goes there. So in the very first sort of season I actually did this, I solved it with a really horrible... Why did that go sideways? I solved it in a really horrible way by creating a timing circuit that just literally tried to keep jamming that button, and that isn't great. So what I'd sort of like to do is improve this a little bit further. To take this, something similar to this, and then stop it from being able to jam. Now the other socket we can, the slot we can read on this thing, let's just grab another logic circuit. We'll need another reader, I think. Logic IO. And let's just build one of those. The other thing we can actually read here is the idle state. So the idle, if it's on, it basically is 1, and if it's off, it's a 0. So what we can do is compare both of those to this. So this is saying, is there something in input slot and not an output slot, or vice versa? And then we can also see if it's idle. So the idle will change from 1 to 0 when this thing turns on and off. It should actually give us a means by which we can reactivate the button. Because instead of comparing, in fact, is it in a logic IO? Yeah, it is a logic IO. We're going to need to just put it this way around, I think. Yeah, just so I don't want to get any cables right next to where this wall's going to be. I'd rather keep it nice and straightforward that way. Let me just get some more cables in here. I may need to print some more off, actually, but we'll see. Let's just get this into a corner. So that should do. And a piece there, and then a corner piece. Okay, so on this one we are going to read, again, the arc furnace. Yep, and this time we're going to read idle. We will just put some stuff away, and now I just want to rename that just so I can grab it. So arc furnace idle. Put that away, turn it on. Is it idle? Yes, it is. So, sorry, did I get that wrong when I was describing it? Yeah, when it's on, idle should be 0. You get that the right way around. So we're also then going to need another compare, so let's just grab another processor. Okay, and that shouldn't take very long to build. And then we're going to compare this one with this one. Now, what do we need as far as the compares concerned? So if it's idle, then I want to try and activate. So I want this to basically be an equals comparison, I think. So yeah, equals should do. Technically, it would also basically trigger if basically it wasn't idle, and also if this comparison, i.e. they are equal to each other, i.e. there's something in both, but it shouldn't actually matter. I think at the end of the day, it should trigger when we want it to. So let's give this a go. And we're just going to put another compare here. Yeah, I think it's going to need to be compare. And yeah, I may well actually need more cable here. Let me just get some more of that printed out. I don't think I need any more electronics this episode. So, and in fact, we've got plenty of copper, and we were about to have an automatic system. So let's just use the rest of what's in here just to make cable coil. There you go. And that's just going to start pushing it into the stacker. Where was I? There we go. So that can go there. Go there, there, and there. And then I just need some at the back. Whoops. There we go. That should all be connected. It looks a bit untidy that there's not a corner there, but it doesn't actually matter as far as the working is concerned. So let's just set you up. So now we're comparing this compare unit We need to relabel these, aren't we? What are we going to call this? Arc work to do. Okay, and then over here we can just use it. So let's just compare arc work to do with arc furnace idle. Okay, and now if I turn that on, you'll see that right now is state of 0. So there shouldn't be any work to actually do this. And then we just need to change this writer back from arc work to do to this logic compare. So that doesn't need to be named anything. And there it goes. So that's going to change. Yep. And once that goes off again, let's just watch what happens to that value. Shouldn't take very long because I think there's only... I didn't put the 48 block in here. Oh, I did put the 48 block in. There's quite a lot of copper being done right now. So I'm just going to dump this in after here. And off camera, I will wait to see whether all of this is processed. So I'm going to push all of that in. And you'll see that it's going to build up in those windows, I think. Yep, you see them right there? Okay, so if everything's working correctly, you'll see that there's one available in here. And we'll see how this actually works when we come back. It's going to have to need to work its way through, first of all. I'll probably put a stacker on this output at some point. For now, I just put an outlet. But as you can see, because of all my tests, I've just got a bunch of different tiny ingots of copper that I need to get rid of. So, of course, we can just dump them in over here. Later, we'll have an automatic distribution system for ingots, but it's not important immediately. And there goes my backpack light again. Ugh, light. I'll refill and we'll come back once that's finished. Hopefully it will do everything I expect it to. And it turned out something I did jammed it so badly that it wouldn't even work whatsoever. So I'm just going to retry that again with a few different things. First of all, we're just going to put this back in. It basically was permanently activated. And none of this was basically saying it should be activated, but it just stayed activated. If that ever happens to you, just deconstruct the furnace, put it back in exactly the same space and just set up the electronics again. Just point them back at the arc furnace and then that should be that. So let's just retry this again with just a few things in each stack. That's 3 in a stack, 2 in a stack, and 1 in a stack. So that is now a few different things. And you should see, if this actually works, that everything starts popping out. There it goes. And it should be done with the next step fairly soon. Shouldn't take very long at all between them. There it goes. And that's 3. Whoops. There's the 3. There's the 2. And the 1 just arrived. So this is working perfectly fine. Just something I did in the initial setup probably jammed because it was basically trying to write something to the furnace. And this works. Now, you may be saying, okay, but what if I have more than one of these furnaces? Well, you'd be good to think of that. There is another way of doing this, and it means instead of using logic readers, we can use something else. So, thankfully, everything is basically off. I'm going to turn off the writer because we're going to need to basically remove a few things, and I'll show you how to do it if you want to do it for more than one. This may take a little bit more, but let's just get the readers up because we're going to need to reuse them. And let me just swap that back out for my screwdriver. So instead of a logic reader, we're going to use a batch slot reader. Fits in the same block space, but it's a little bit more complicated as far as setting it up is concerned. So we've got to read a device. Obviously, we're going to read a type of device here. It's not just that one specific device, because remember, it's batch reading. So if we just go through this, we're going to get to the arc furnace. And you said there's a few different slots we can actually read. So input slot, export slot are the only, well, there's only 2 that we can actually read. So that's good. Import is going to be that one. And then we can read a few different things. So one is the average. So for example, of all your arc furnaces, what's the average of that slot? Okay, so if this one is the input slot and we're reading the average, then it might come in at 0, might come in at 1. I don't want that. There's sum, there's minimum, maximum, and that's pretty much it. Now, if I have maximum, it should give me whatever the maximum value is, I think. And what we also want to read is, let's just move this around, quantity. Yeah. So the input slot, what's the quantity maximum? Right now, it's 0. So if I just go and grab a, what's in you, one piece, let me just make sure I just grab a couple of pieces, just so we can make sure of what this is actually reading. Oops. That's 31. I don't want 31, I want 2. Okay, there you see, input quantity is 2. So we can do the same thing for this other one. We can read the same thing. We need all of our arc furnaces. And we can compare them. Now, that's a little bit different. You may not necessarily need to do that. I'm just trying to remember whether this is needed or not. See, if we know that the maximum is 2, all we can really need to do is detect whether any of them are idle, I suppose, or if one of them's idle, something like that, then try and trigger. But there's a bit of a complication there, so I'm just going to set this up to read the export slots too, just so we've got something identical. And read the export. I want to read the quantity. Is there anything else? Oh, I can read occupied. Occupied actually might be a bit better than quantity. Yeah, occupied. So 1 and export occupied, and then maximum is 0. Okay, so again we got something whereby, well, in fact, yeah, there we go, it is 0. We can now compare both of those, and if we have 5 arc furnaces, we're going to read what the maximum in any of the imports is. So for example, if any of them have something in the import slot, we can then try and trigger all of them. You can't really, well, you can batch, you can't really trigger them individually without individual circuits, unfortunately. So if you want to have independent control of all of them, I would suggest you don't do this. But if you did, you'd want to go back to the logic reader approach, and instead of having these. These, however, just make it a bit more effortless. The only difference is you'll see all of your furnaces try to flash on at the same time if you set them up this way. So now we can compare the same things. We just need to grab a little renaming tool. And now we're basically reading, so batch arc batch import and arc batch export. Arc batch export. That can all go there, and now we just need to set up our comparison. So input 1 arc batch import is not equal to arc batch export, and this is now 1. So just like as before, we can now compare, and what we're really comparing is if this is currently idle, arc furnace idle 0. Well, kind of is idle. Have I got that wrong again? Arc furnace idle? You'd expect idle to be 1 right now. Okay. Oh, well, maybe, yeah, maybe idle is also if it has something in its import and export slots. Interesting. Could that be a shortcut then? Because if idle, can you just trigger on if idle is 0 and then try it if something is also in the import slot? That's possible. Yeah, maybe that's a shortcut. We'll leave it out for now, but we should have exactly the same thing. The comparison is 0, and you would expect at some point for that to change, but let's turn this back on again. So that's 0, and now I'm going to need to try and start this system back up again. Now everything is connected. I need to probably just remove this wall and then just make sure I reset everything. Or can I just actually do this by a new... can I actually turn anything on and off to do this? I probably can just change this to not equals and then back to equals. Yeah. Okay, so that's triggered it. And you should be done. There we go. And everything's working as before. But now it will read, unfortunately, the downside to this is it needs to look at the first arc furnace. So as long as these pipes distribute things into the first arc furnace first and then onward when you create splitters, we're not to splitters yet, but when you have splitters in front of them, then this will work, I think. But remember, we can only read the idle state on one of those furnaces. think that's a limitation. If anyone has any better options than this, feel free to put them in the comments below. I'm sure all of you probably screaming at the monitor right now saying, it's just so easy, you can do it this way. We'll see. But this is fine, I think. If you can just read idle, then maybe that's a shortcut. So that could be one possible thing. What happens to idle? If I just turn this off again, and where's that copper gone? Has it rolled off somewhere? Let's just go and grab some more. Okay, let's just try this again. This won't actually activate anything because it's off. So let's just get one, and let's take a look at what idle changes to. 0. Okay, so it is 0 when there's something in its import slot. That's interesting. I guess we could... Yeah, we can't really trigger on that because we have to compare it with something else no matter what we do. So yeah, that's fine as it is. And now if I just change this back again, it should work. Let's just drop you off and let's go to not equals equal. Whoops. Was that supposed to be not equals? Equals 0. It's currently idle. Has it processed that? Yeah, easy way to tell. It has not processed you yet. Okay, I'll reset the electronics anyway, and we'll get it back and working. Now, there is a quicker and dirtier way of doing it, trying to not be quite as intelligent, so I've reset this up just so that you can see that as well. And in fact, we can just, let me just actually tidy this up a little bit. Let's just move this over here, I think. Yeah, we'll do that with 2 of them. Oh, you're out of batteries, really? I must have been using this hand drill a lot today. Let's just grab that, swap it around. There we go. So let's just grab our batch writers again, and we're going to put them over here. Batch writers. One there. One there. And let's just grab the snips. We're just going to grab some more cable from over here. Okay. And we're just going to connect it back here. Like this. And then just get a corner placed. I think that's everything they need. They just need to be, well, they need to be rotated. Yeah, that actually would help if they're in the right position. There we go. Ugh, wrong thing now. Helps if you put batch writers back. Batch writers. There we go. 1, 2. Okay. Now, instead of trying to do all the comparisons, you can make it much simpler for yourself if you wanted to. And I'm not sure how well this is going to work either. You just need testing in a lot of these cases. So all we're really going to do is read each of these and then try and activate on whether either of them turn to 1. So if any of your furnaces, however many you attach, go to 1 on the import, i.e. something's occupied, or if something goes to the output, even the output, it will try to activate the button. The output one's a bit more important because if, let's say, one item goes in and let's say another item follows it while the first furnace is activated, the next one's going to go in, but the first furnace is already activated and it's hit activated again. You may end up with jams, so let's just leave it like this and we'll see whether this actually works longer term. So let's just change this to look at the import, go to the arc furnace and hit the activate button. And then this one's going to be look at the export, go to the arc furnace, and hit the activate button. On, and those are both 0 at the moment, so this needs to be cleaned up, but let's give this a test. So if I just grab this copper again, and we'll just split off a few. There we go. So I'm just going to grab 1 or 2 from over here. I built in the side walls now, just so that this stuff doesn't escape. So again, we'll go for 3. Okay, and 2. And a 1. And let's see if this perfectly activates everything. So you may see some dodgy behavior with the activate state, the glowingness, but that may well process. So that's our first one, which was the 3, I think. Yep, that's the 3. Is the 2 going to come out? Looks like the 2. Okay, and there's the 1. So that's going to work. The only behavior difference you're going to see with this is if you do it this way, it'll be trying to activate all your furnaces, even if you only put 1 stack in your entire system. It's not a problem, it's just something you have to watch for. I quite like this system for simplicity, but if you want the more complex behavior, you might want to try and read these states, combine them with the idle state of 1 or more furnaces, and then you can deal with it that way. But this is working fine for me, and I'm really using up these batteries. What I'm going to do next episode, I think, is basically go for the furnace side of things, and we're going to automate the furnace side of things, or at least get it so that I don't have any danger of me getting burned in the atmosphere out here, and we'll have it so it's configurable so that we can actually keep it hot for quite a long time and then produce a fair amount of steel. But for now, this system is automated. I've got a stack of stuff here, so what I actually need to do pretty soon, let's just take a look here. How much is it for a stacker? A stacker is going to be iron and copper. Well, I guess we can dump some iron in here, and we know we've got plenty of copper, so we can put that through our system now, and everything is pretty good, I think. So yeah, I've got a nice system running. I can start it up and stack things in the chutes, and we have stuff ready to go. So let's just put the rest of our iron in the system, and hopefully it's not going to jam for me. So I need to clean things up, but I can do that between the episodes. What I also want to do in here is put down some floor coverings, because it's sort of awful when you have all these chips all over the place. We can make it as small as possible, even by moving those sort of inside this block. They should all fit underneath there if I'm a bit careful with wiring, so I think that's what I'll actually do. And then I'll be able to put down a floor grating underneath, and then all of this out here can be kept clean apart from this one line coming in. So yeah, let's do that, I think. But for now, I think that's me signing off. We've got plenty of stuff done. We've got an automated furnace setup. We are about to get a stacker. Just need a bit more copper now, I guess. Put you in there. And everything's done. So yeah, we'll see you next episode for some furnace setup. If you've got any comments, if you've got any questions, put them in the comment section down below. If you've got a more perfect setup than this, i.e. perfect being, can it consume the least amount of electricity for no jams ever? That's my definition of perfect. No jams ever, least amount of electricity. If it needs a little bit of electricity to just briefly hit the activate buttons, don't mind, but otherwise we don't want this on all the time otherwise. So what we could do over here is move this transformer in, and when all these are moved underneath there, put the transformer here, and then just turn it on whenever we want our furnaces. That means you can then extend this sort of cubicle area outwards and to the left. We can do that quite easily. I can just move the vents, etc., and we can have this processing. The only problem with doing that is that you need, first of all, a way to split up things. You can't. There is no automatic distribution for T pieces, I don't think. It will always try and put them in one slot. It won't split them evenly. So for that kind of thing, you need splitters, and you need a lot more room to do that. That's why I'm not going to bother to start off with. We'll build that later in the series once we get a fair amount more resources and more infrastructure set up. So for now, thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time for some more Stationeers. As always, click on the thumbs up if you've enjoyed the episode, or at least not been too irritated by my electronics in the episode. Otherwise, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time. As always, guys, thanks for watching.